On this edition of Malpope in Conversation, I'm chatting to Phil Baggaley. Phil called me last April about a new project he was working on called Broken Instruments, and this is what it sounds like.
From the ruins of a synagogue, a cantor song is ringing out. For one day soon the truth will shout. They can take away our freedom, but they'll never break our spirits. No, not this time. Broken instruments can be mended then. They will play again once more.
So Phil, tell me, how did the idea of Broken Instruments come to you?
Well, it all kind of started by accident, really, in the fact that about a month before I was doing some writing. I don't work on a Friday, so I kind of every Friday I get my guitar out and try and do something musical. And I started writing this song, and the chorus just had a bit of I guess the melody had a bit of a Jewish flavour to it somehow. Mm-hmm. And then I was sort of thinking about the lyrics and kind of where to take it from there. And I got on the internet, started looking up about Jewish musicians, and found some fascinating history about them during the Second World War. Then I came across a website called Violins of Hope, which was basically violins that had been renovated after the Second World War that were kind of rescued from the rubble of places like Auschwitz. And there was a book that kind of went with it called Violins of Hope as well. It was a historical book. So I sent away for it on the internet because I was really interested in just reading up more. Got the book back and really, I mean, factual book, but very, very challenging. It was stories of various violins that had been rescued by this one guy after the war and renovated to become really beautiful instruments again, which then went on in turn to be the lyric of that particular song. And I got a friend who I'd done the last couple of musicals with, a guy called Bill Varnum. Again, we go back a long way as well. He actually sang at my 18th birthday party. So there you go. So we kind of all, we all go back a long way. And I called him up and I said, I don't know, Bill, I just feel like there's something more to this than just this one song that I've written. And that was the kind of beginning of this process. And it all kind of tied in with lockdown as well, which was interesting because literally, I remember last March, we kind of went into lockdown. And it meant that musicians weren't getting very much work. A lot of people were around at home. Actors weren't very busy either, which was really sad. So in I don't know, my own small way, I thought it was just a way of kind of trying to support actor friends and musicians through that period as well. So that was kind of something to do with the kind of sort of reason for doing it. Once
you sent me the information about it, I was so moved that people in those disastrous circumstances. Now, we thought it was pretty bad, and it has been for the last year for artists and creatives because we haven't been able to do stuff. But even in Auschwitz, people had to be creative, and they had to find unusual ways and spectacular ways to be creative. I was doing some research about it. 30,000 pieces of artwork found from people who were lost in the Holocaust. It's something in the human spirit, even in the worst. I'm not saying our circumstances were anything like the Holocaust, but creatives have to be creative, don't they?
Yeah, I think they do. Yeah, I think, and in our story, again, reading the book, The Violins of Hope as well, there were so many incredible stories of how sort of orchestras are being formed, and people were determined to carry on making music even in the worst of circumstances, and that was, I guess, that's the kind of basis for our story. And through that, they also found, a lot of hope, by doing it, and I think in a way, like you say, in our way, I know it's nothing like it all, but there's something about creating something, and you must know this, Marcus, you're a very, very creative person, that is just the most satisfying, lovely thing, and we will find ways of making it work, however we can, really.
Okay, so you start writing songs, and you bring your old mates in as you've done in other projects.
Yeah.
And one of the key people is Mark Edwards. Now, Mark is a wonderful jazz musician. I mean, his pedigree is fantastic. But he was involved in a project that we worked in called City of Gold all those years ago.
Yeah.
How did the two of you work together at such a distance? Because he's down on the south coast, isn't he?
Well, again, it was when we did the first track at the beginning of lockdown. There's a girl called Kelsey Shaw, who's an amazing singer, and she recorded the vocal, and I'd just done like literally my classical guitar in my spare bedroom sort of thing, and sent the two bits off to Mark to say, could you have a look at this and kind of maybe orchestrate it, and a few days later we sent this most beautiful track. And I sat there and had a bit of a cry. Actually, it was like a really emotional experience just hearing what he'd done. So I phoned him up and I said, look, I'm thinking about this project. It's like all these things, isn't it? Like I kind of got in contact with you, really. You know, you kind of phone people up, you get people involved, you start to build your team, and people who really kind of get the vision for it are the people who are ultimately going to really see that project through, you know. So I phoned Mark up and basically said, look, I'm thinking about this idea. And he was really, really taken with the idea. And it turned out he works with a singer called Katie Mellower, plays keyboards for her and tours all around Europe. And he was saying a lot of, his kind of sort of days off or whatever, if he would be in Poland, he would go and visit the camps. He would do research, and it was something that was kind of very interesting and part of him as well. And he'd actually done himself had done like a project the year before to do with music in the Holocaust as well. So I didn't really know this at the time until I spoke to him about it, and then it was like, oh wow, this we've kind of got a lot in common here. So to cut a long story very short, Mark got involved in the project, so I would be writing the songs. Kelsey and yourself would sing on them. I would then send them off in the very basic form, and then a week later, this incredible piece of orchestration would turn up back on my desk, sort of thing. So that was and then in tandem with that as well, we were also kind of writing the story, and Bill was writing the script. So obviously none of us could meet, so it was kind of literally myself talking to you on FaceTime, myself teaching Kelsey a song on FaceTime, literally like line by line, and she would sing it back, and then she would go away and then kind of record the vocal. And then with Bill, it was a similar thing as well. I think our record phone call was something like about 7 hours, I think, on one Friday. we had a dinner break,
Of course, yeah. They had to pop the loo.
And we kind of so they kind of began to build the story up bit by bit, and then we got a bit further through lockdown. And the idea, and still is, to get this as a full theatre production. Obviously, that's not going to be possible for quite a while yet. And I think even when we get back to theatre, there's obviously lots of people have been waiting for their chance to do the shows that were cancelled and things like that. So, we are looking probably a couple of years hence, really. So it's kind of what do we do to kind of keep moving this project forward? And I think one of the things we thought was it's really important to kind of keep the momentum going. So we decided to record it as an audio musical, basically. I guess, a musical for radio, a musical drama for radio. Yeah. Which is probably the best way of putting it. So we'd obviously got the music, which was coming together well. Then Bill had to go back to his script and kind of think about it from, if you take the visual out of it, how do you begin to share that story with people in a way they can understand where they are at certain points in time, because the storyline starts in 1980, then flicks back to the beginning of Ari's life and things like that. So lots of things going on. And we came up with a script. We then got in contact with Dan Ellis, who's been a really long time collaborator as a director. and talked to him about our idea, and he said, I think we can make this work. And that was just at the time we were able to kind of sort of socially distance, but kind of maybe work with one person in another room or whatever, kind of get things going again. So we basically recorded the whole of the dialogue with Dan in one room, Rob Bullock, my friend who's the engineer, in his sort of studio room, and then the actor in another room, and they're all speaking by sort of phones or whatever, and Dan would be feeding the actor the lines, and then they would kind of do their lines, and then after that took about a week, and then Dan went away for probably 6 or 7 weeks, I think it was, and put all this script together. When we got scenes finished, we then sent them back to Mark to underscore them as well. A brilliant lad called Ben played the violin. A couple of days later, I kind of open my email up, or stuff gets kind of sent, shared with me, and it's just like the most wonderful thing you've ever heard. It's just like, so for me, it was this. I don't know, this whole idea of you start off with a vision for a project, and I think if the right people are involved, and like I said before, and they've all got the heart for it, that's when it all kind of starts to come together, and it just felt like. As we were going through the project, it was kind of somehow bigger than we were. I don't mean that in a weird way, but you know what I mean? You just feel like sometimes you feel like, stuff's got legs, and other times you feel like it's really hard work when you're doing things. But I think
there was a responsibility to this story, wasn't it? Because we were talking about people's lives who were destroyed, but they still created stuff. And I think that was the bit I was feeling, as I was trying to bring life to your words. Interesting, you say about it is like a radio play, and sometimes the best pictures are on radio, aren't they? So, but how you do that? Now, I've got a picture of all the different tracks on one particular section of the project, and the sound effects is all of those sort of things. There's a lot of work going on.
Yeah, physical tracks there was in each act, because each act lasts for about 50 minutes. So I think there was 300 tracks in the first act, and similar on the second act, and that's not including all the, obviously the music tracks were just like kind of put in there as finished things. So so an incredible amount of work. It would take Dan probably a couple of days to get through each scene. It was a long editing job sort of thing. But and then the challenge in there as well is just to really make, because what you want to do for the listener, I think, is really make them feel something. Especially a story like this, it's really important to just kind of really flows, and just kind of like the whole emotion is kind of retained in what you're trying to do. So, and I think that's the bit that takes the work really. But Dan did a brilliant job, really, really good. So.
And not even just referring to sound effects disc. If you want to muzzle toff, if you want to smash a glass, you record from scratch, don't you?
Yeah. So Dan did quite a few of those sort of sound effects himself, and he used to keep sending me pictures, which was quite amusing. So.
So you finished the project, and this has been a really incredible week, because sometimes there are golden moments where projects do have unexpected life. Now, you wanted to link it up with World Holocaust Memorial Day, which was this week, but you woke up to a bit of a surprise, didn't you, this week?
Yeah, I did. It was interesting. We've kind of been working with a lovely sort of kind of promotion company. Have been really working hard on our behalf. And last week, myself and Kelsey did an interview for the BBC World Service, actually, and a guy called Martin Venard, which is a really nice guy. And it was kind of, tough interview, really, because, lots of big questions and things like that. And then I woke up on Tuesday morning, my brother-in-law had sent me a WhatsApp and said, "Do you realise you're on Radio 4, you see?" We had no idea.
Musicians and their instruments caught up in war and the Holocaust. That's the story told in a new musical called Broken Instruments, charting how Jewish musicians sent to Auschwitz were used to form orchestras for the Guards' entertainment and as a backdrop to camp life. Initially, it'll be an audio play, and the title track is released tomorrow to mark International Holocaust Remembrance Day.
The violin, or so they say, can sound just like the human voice.
The story that Broken Instruments tells was actually, after that, the whole thing just, and still is this kind of really snowballed in terms of people's interest from all over the world. The thing that really kind of meant the most was like people were really absolutely touched by the song. For lots of different reasons. I think for what it signified and what it was to do with, but also I think, for the situation that people find themselves in at the moment, something about this particular song seems to really kind of connect with them. So you think, I don't know really, it was just like one of those sort of things that you think, wow, that was, amazing. Where did it come from? But thank you. And I think it's really given us the impetus as well to kind of really carry on and see this thing through to completion. So.
Broken instruments can be mended, then they will play again once more. And the song once lost somewhere way back when will return to you for sure.
Yeah. I mean, from a personal point of view, there were a couple of challenges. Now then, obviously, I'm Welsh. You might have not noticed that. Phil, a little bit Welsh. And I get really cross when I watch the TV and they say, instead of saying Tonna Pandy, they say Tony Pandy. Or Tonna Reveil, they go Tony Reveil. And so I was really keen, and I know you were as well, on making sure, because there are some, I'm not sure if it's Yiddish or Hebrew, but there are words there that none of us were quite sure. And now I found them quite easy, I think I had one text back from you saying, Mal, the jury's back, you've gone over the top. But we did make sure that the pronunciation, as much as we could, and I'm trying to think of the rabbi's name who was very kind in actually sort of like sending the so I could listen to it and try my best to get it right.
Yeah, it's a lady called Barbara Bortz, and she's one of the, I think, 3 lady rabbis in Europe, actually. A really lovely lady. We got in contact with her when we were sort of writing the script again, because we wanted to make sure we got the correct sort of pronunciation of words. One of the things while we were recording the audio play was to kind of think, kind of what did we need accents, how were we going to do it. In the end, we actually settled for sort of speaking in sort of British accents, I suppose. But there were, within the script, there is also kind of quite a lot of, like I say, Yiddish and Hebrew words as well. So, or turns of phrase and little things that people would say. She was really great from that perspective. In fact, we just heard from her today. She wrote us a really lovely email after hearing the finished thing. So that was, we were very pleased about that.
A new day dawns into land, my friends. Yashikor, come what may, my brothers, Michael.
Yeah. Still dreaming big for this project, Phil? It's been a good launch week. Still dreaming big.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's just one of those sort of things, like I say, sometimes when you do projects, you feel like you've got a real responsibility for it, and that's how I kind of feel at the moment. So I think we're going to run as hard and as fast as we possibly can for as long as we can to see where we get, and hopefully people will kind of pick up on the vision, pick up on what we're trying to do. I'm well aware that, the next stage, getting the stuff to theatre, in terms of finance and everything is just, next league up really. So we do need partners. We definitely do need partners and people to work with. So, but as I say, it's been a good week this week. It's been a great start. People are really enjoying what we're doing. So we'll keep going, definitely.
Fantastic. Well, wish you all the best. And what are we working on next then? Oh, wait till the phone call, is it? I'll wait for the phone. Wait for the email to come through.
It won't be long, Mel. Yeah. Couldn't do anything without you.
No,
nice to see you, mate.
Nice to see you.
Broken instruments can be mended then. They will play again once more. And the song once lost somewhere way back when will return to you for sure.